Did you know that you can quickly and easily implement any kind of animation that you want to your FlutterFlow app? And so here I am on Rive.app, and this is a community page that has a ton of animations here that were created by other people, and you can go out and you can use any of these animations inside of your app. You can take an animation that's already here, you can also modify it, or you can create an animation from scratch, an animation that pretty much does whatever you want. And so in this video, I'm going to be introducing to you a really exciting and interesting functionality, and that is by creating animations that your user can interact with. And when you create an animation, it's going to make your app more interesting, more alluring, and more unique. And so compared to an app that's static, boring, by creating all kinds of interesting animations that enhance the user experience, your app is going to be adding a lot more value than a comparable app that does not have similar animations. And so the first thing I want to show you is the community of animations that have been created already. And then later on in the video, I'm going to be showing you how you can create your own animations. So if you go to rive.app, and that's rive.app/community, you're going to be looking at animations that were created by other users here. And you can pretty much take any of these animations and you can implement them inside of your app, or you can modify them to suit your specific preferences and requirements. And so let's say I want to show this kind of animation here. So all I need to do is click on it, and I have a couple of options here. I can open it in Rive. That means I can take a look how it's done. I can modify it, or I can download it. What we're going to do is we're going to hover over download. We're going to right click and we're going to say copy link address. Then I'm going to go back to FlutterFlow, and I have a blank app here. I don't have anything here. I haven't done any kind of coding or anything like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a column, right? We're going to add a column, and inside the column, we are going to search and add the Rive animation widget. Once we do that, you want to scroll down and you want to make the width maximum. So we're going to hit this infinity button here, and maybe the height of like 400, okay? Now, as you can see, it already has an animation here, and that is because when you create the widget, it automatically adds a default animation. But we want to show a different animation, so we're going to go to this path field. We're going to select and delete it, and then paste that new URL. Once it loads that, it says loading file here. Once it loads it, it asks us to pick an artboard. So do not worry what an artboard is. I'm going to be explaining to you in a second. Just click here and select pencil. And now you have this animation. But this animation has a lot of other animations inside of it, right? So you can pick what kind of animations you want to be included. And not to worry, I'm going to be explaining a little bit more of how it's done. And then you can preview this animation. And as you can see, it does a lot of things, right? So depending on which animations inside this main file you pick, it's going to do various things. For instance, if you just want to do draw, you can just leave draw and say preview, and then it just draws, okay? It may not include some of the other ones. It has default jump. So let's say you just want jump, right? So let's say we deselect, we select jump and preview, and then it just jumps, okay? So all of these animations, they collectively do a lot of other things. They do a lot of things, but that does not mean you need to include all of them. Maybe you want the animation to do everything, or maybe you want it to do only certain things. That's depending. Now that we configured the widget, you have an option here to auto-animate. And what this does is that this thing begins playing whenever the page is loaded. So this could be like a splash screen, or in any kind of situation where as soon as the page is loaded, as soon as the page is displayed to the user, it's going to run the animation. But there's more things that you can do. You can disable this auto-animate, and you can go in here and you can add an action, meaning that if somebody clicks on it, it can animate it. Or if there's a button, they can animate it. So let me show you how that's done. So we have a column. Let's add a button here. And the button is going to be right below it. Let's create it. Let's put it inside of a container here. And let's give that container, let's do a padding on the container, 20. And let's say the button is going to be, and let's say the container, we have a width of 200 and a height of 50. And now we have a button here. And what I want to do is if I click on this button, it's going to run the animation. So all I need to do is select this button, come to action, add an action, search for Riv animation, and select animation. Now, if I run this app, if I click on this button, it's gonna run this animation. Let me show you. So let's go ahead and run this app, test it right here. All right, so here's the app. Now, if I click on this button, as you can see, it executes these animations. And of course, I can have multiple animations. I can have a button execute another animation, lots and lots of interesting things. Now, let's talk about how you can actually build these animations. And I also want to show you a couple of advanced functionalities that are going to be very, very interesting to you as well. And so once you go inside the Rive app, you can see we have this animation here. We can open it inside Rive. We can see how it's implemented, or we can go inside the editor. So why don't we go inside the editor? And I want to show you how to create a very, very simple animation. And then we'll look at some of the more complex animations once you have a certain level of understanding. So if I go inside the editor here, what I can do is I can create a new animation here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a new file here. We're going to specify 500 width and 500 height. We're going to say create. And now we are here in this Rive animation screen, okay? And we have two tabs. We have design and we have animate. And here we can design first, and later we can go into animate, and we can essentially animate whatever we just designed. So let's try designing something. If we come in here, we have a bunch of tools that we can use. Okay, so we have the select tool, the translate tool, we have we can create a new artboard, a nested artboard, we can group things. But here we can create various shapes. Okay, so let's create a circle. We have a circle. I just created a circle. Let's center it. As you can see now it's centered. You can kind of drag it, and there's guides there that kind of lead you. And now we center the circle. We can click on the circle, and we have various parameters here, various characteristics of the circle. We have the position, the scale, rotation. We can rotate it like this. We can increase it. We have a path here as well. We have an origin. We have layer here. We have the color. So let's say we want to change the color. We can make it red. And we have strokes here. So I can stroke it. So let's say I want to stroke it. I want the black. So now we have a red circle with kind of a black line around it. So I can click back, and let's say I want the stroke to be thicker. So I can make it 10, and now that line is thicker, okay? So now that we have a simple circle, let me show you how you can quickly animate it, okay? You can simply go to animate here, and when you do that, you have a bunch of other options here. So what that means is that you have your types of animations and the amount of animations, okay? So we have a default animation, it's called animation 1. Here you're gonna see the certain things you're gonna be animating, and here what we have is an area, kind of like a play area that will show you how your animation is working over time. And the way it works is that we have 1 second that contains 60 frames. So here we have 10 frames, 20 frames, etc., all the way to 60 frames. So let me show you how we can animate it. What you want to do first is you want to put this playhead, this thing here at the beginning. And you want the circle to have an initial state, meaning like it starts from something, it goes to something, and then throughout that time, it animates. So as an example, let's say we have the circle and we want to make it smaller, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the playhead in the beginning, and I'm going to click on this keyframe, and I'm going to click on this keyframe. I'm also going to select it so they're locked. And this is the scale parameter. Now we've set the first keyframe in the beginning, and we specify that we are controlling the scale. And then what I want to do is I want to go to the end, and I want to change this to 50%. And that's going to make the circle half as big. And what we're saying is that at the end, we want it to be 50%. So if I go back, as you can see, it's back to 100%. But if I scroll through this playhead, as you can see, this is automatically decreasing. So that is 50% at the end. And if I play it by clicking on this button, it becomes smaller. And I just created a quick animation. I can make it do something else. For instance, I can also make it move. I can make it decrease in size and move. So as an example, let's say we want it to be decreasing and we also want it to move as well. So I'm going to go put the playhead all the way in the beginning, and I'm going to change the position. I want it to move, let's say, in the Y direction, okay? Meaning that I want it to move up and down. Y is up and down, X is left and right. So let's say I want it to move up a little bit. So I'm going to pick this right here, Y. I'm going to drag it all the way over. And let's say I want it to move up. So that means I want the Y to be smaller. So I'm going to say 150. And now it moved up. And now, as you can see, we're at the initial position. And as we're dragging it, it moves up and becomes smaller. Okay? And if we hit this little arrow here, we're going to see that we are animating the position and we're animating the scale. This thing is going to show us exactly how to work. So if we play it, there it's doing. Now, that's an animation that plays once. If we want this animation to play maybe a loop, or we want it to play continuously, we can click on this animation, click here, and we can do a loop. Okay, now this thing here, it changed this icon. So if we play it, now it's looping. Okay, we can pause, we can come back. Or we want it to ping pong. Okay, so if we play it, it's gonna go back and forth. Okay, so this might be useful in certain situations. Okay, so I'm gonna hit pause again, and I'm gonna click on this button to go back to go to the front of the playhead. And what we did now is we created a very, very simple animation. So once you're done, you can click on this button here and you can do download, and you want to always pick for newest runtime. And we just saved this animation. Okay, you have this file, you can drag it back here. So meaning if I give you this file, you'll be able to open your free account on Rive, and you can drag this file to your desk area, to your editor, and it's going to automatically open the animation. And now if we go to our app here, let's say we want to go to our app, and we actually want to upload this animation. What we want to do is we want to select this area. We're going to come here, and instead of network, we're going to say asset as our animation source, and we're going to upload this animation. So I'm going to hit upload. I'm going to drag the file that I just saved, and we're going to see if it works. I'm going to upload, and I can click on it, and I can essentially use the file that I just exported inside my widget. So I'm going to pick it right here. I'm going to say choose it. It's going to load it up, and it's going to see that there's an animation. It's going to ask me to pick an artboard. We only have one artboard here, and there's my animation. I can also choose it. I can preview it, and as you can see right there, there's the animation. Now, once I've previewed it, I can pick the kind of animation I want to do, whether it's once or continuous. I can decide whether I want it to auto-animate, basically to load the animation as soon as the page is loaded, kind of like as a splash screen. But I can also trigger the animation via a button or some kind of another event. So for instance, I can come here and I have a column. Let's say I want to add a button at the bottom, and I want, maybe give it some padding, 30. And I want this button to trigger this animation. Okay, so I'm going to disable it. I want to make sure it's not going to auto animate. I'm going to choose this button. I'm going to say, well, animate. I'm going to come to actions right here, and I'm going to say add an action. I'm going to type RIV, my Rive animation. I'm going to choose the animation. Okay, I only have one animation, one widget here, one animation widget. That is why it's giving me one option. Otherwise, I would have had a bunch of other animation I'm using. So let's run this app and see if it works how we want it to work. All right, so here we are. We've launched the app. We got the animation. As you can see, it's not animating right from the beginning. That is because we disabled the auto animate feature. But if we click on this button, it should hopefully animate. So here we go. And there's the animation. It basically went ahead. It moved it up, and it also decreased the size of the circle, just how we have it in the editor. So if we go back to the editor, we go to animate, and we run it as a one-shot animation. That is exactly what it's doing. Okay, now obviously you can add more animations. Okay, remember in this specific animation, animation 1, we are controlling the scale, which is the size, as well as the position. We're moving it up. Okay, we're decreasing the Y parameter, but we can add a new animation. I can add a new animation, and that animation can do something else, right? So maybe it will bounce, or maybe it's gonna change the color or anything like that. And as soon as you add a new animation, when you import this new animation here and you come back, you're gonna see a bunch of other animations. So right now we see animation 1, but if we go ahead and I create a second animation, let's say this animation is gonna change the color of it. So let me show you what I mean. So I have the second animation picked. I'm at the beginning, and what I want to do is I want to scroll down. I want to change the fill. Okay, I want to change the fill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this keyframe here, and I want to go all the way, and I want to, let's say, go from red to yellow, something like this. I want to go from red to yellow. So if I go back, as you can see, it's red. And if we play it, it changes. So now we have two animations. If you expand animation, we have fill, and it's telling us what's happening. You see, it's showing us the color in real time, right? It's showing us that we have it red here, but if I go back, it's yellow. And I can change it from here. Let's say I wanted to go to blue. Okay, something like this. Now, if we go back, here it's red. If I play it, it goes to blue. And I can do the same thing for the stroke. Let's say I want to animate fill. I can also animate how thick the stroke is. So I can go back, and I want to set a keyframe at 10. I want to go to the end. And by the way, I don't need to do a second keyframe. It does it automatically. That's kind of how all animation tools work, is that you set the first keyframe, and then you can modify it, and it's automatically going to set the keyframe from you. So let's say I wanted to 50, okay? And now it creates the second keyframe. Now, if we play it, take a look at this. It changes the color, and it also changes the thickness of the stroke as well. And that is our second animation. So now if I download this, I'm going to say share, download for newest runtime. Now I have this file. I'm going to go back to my app here. I'm going to pick it. And what I want to do is I want to upload the animation, the second version here. And now, once it uploads it, it's going to have, I still have one artboard, but now I have two animations. So I can just do one animation, right? I can just do preview. I still have the old animation, or I could do the second animation. Look at that. Or I can do both. Okay, so now I can do both if I want. It really depends how I want to do it. And the same thing here. We can go to animate. We're going to pick our animation, our Rive animation widget. I have my animation. And depending on what animations I picked here that I want to implement, right? So for instance, here, I want to do both animations. If I run the app, if I run it again, and I have both animations picked, it's going to do both animations. So that gives you kind of flexibility. Maybe in certain situations, you only want one of the animations. Maybe in certain situations, you want the second animation. Maybe in certain situations, you want all of them together. It's really up to you. So now, if we animate it, it does both animations because that is kind of we picked. But if you go back here, we pick this app here, and I just want the second animation. We come back here, we instant reload it. And now, if we load the app and we hit animate, we are only executing the second animation. As you can see, we only had the second animation picked. And so this gives you a lot of flexibility on how exactly you want things to work, because obviously it would have been a lot trickier if you created all of these animations and they did not enable you to pick a specific animation for a specific situation. All right, so now we took a look how to build an animation, how to implement it. And I want to show you some of the more advanced functionality that you can do that's really going to make your app a lot more interesting. So if we go back to the home page and we go to the community tab here, we can basically look at all the animations that the community, basically the people that use this tool, have created. And we can open it up. So I can click on it here. I can open it up. And I can open it in Rive. I can download it, start using it inside my app. But if I open it in Rive, I can see how people have done all of these animations. The source code, so to speak, is all here. So here I have this animation. I can play it. And look at this. It's animating a lot of things. Let me make it a little, let me zoom out a little bit. Look at this. It has a lot of states here, a lot of interesting things. And if I pause it and I go back over, I can see they have one animation there, and it does a lot of things. Right, look at this. There's a lot of things happening, right? If we go to the design view, you have a lot of things happening here all at once. So you can create a lot of like really complex animations inside a app, but you can also modify these animations that they have there. Now, there's something special that I want to show you. If we go back to the community tab here, there's a lot of animations, but there's a certain type of animation that's going to be very, very helpful when you're building apps. So if you scroll down, you're going to see this kind of animation. This is a certain type of animation. So if we open this up and we open it in Rive, what makes this specific animation special is it uses something called a state machine. So we have an animation that does the share. So if I play it, it switches to share, but I also have another animation that switches to tweet. So if I play it, it goes to Twitter. But then they also have something called the state machine. And what that does is that keeps state. So it remembers the last position this animation was. So if I make it a little bit smaller here, you can see that if I play this one, it goes to a certain position, right? It goes to one position. If I play this one, it goes to a specific position. But what if I wanted to switch to another position, kind of like a regular light switch, like a light bulb switch? Then we can go to the switch, and as you can see, this is different. This is called the state machine, and you can add an animation or a state machine. And what this does is that it remembers the previous state. So if it was in the on position, it's going to go to the off position. If it was in the off position, it's going to go to the on position. So if I press play and I also trigger it using the switch input, it's going to switch. And if I trigger it again, it's going to switch back. And that's how it's going to keep doing it. Okay, if I switch, it comes back. If I switch, it comes back. And you can implement this kind of functionality to create a lot of interesting stuff inside of your app. So it's not simply about creating a splash screen or a beautiful button or anything like that. You can go further and you can actually implement, things that remember their previous state, as is the case here, where you're building something that like a switch, something that, like has a Twitter or a share button or something like that. And briefly, the way it works is that here we have a quick diagram, okay? And we have the entry, and it's always gonna go here. But then from here, it goes here, and then from here, it goes here. And that is all it does. It's very, very simple. It's just really, really simple, because if I delete this, it's never gonna go back. So if I come in here, and let's say I play it, I press play, I hit the switch, it goes there. And if I hit the switch, it goes back, but it's never gonna go back again because we deleted the line back. So if I hit the switch, nothing is gonna happen because it's all the way at the end. But if I come here and I link it back, now when it's here, it's gonna go here. And when it's here, it's gonna go here. So let me show you. And so now when I hit switch, it goes here. When I hit switch, it goes back, etc., etc. And just to show you a little bit more functionality, if I choose this path here, right? This path, it's only gonna happen when the switch is clicked. And same thing for this path. It's only gonna happen when the switch is triggered. Now, this is more advanced stuff. And if you guys are interested, I may make a separate video just telling you all about the functionality, things that I've learned using this tool, the various things that you can do by creating animation. But this video is really not about specifically about how to create like crazy complex animations. I just wanted to show you some of the things that you can do by, hitting the ground running and creating simple animations. You can create just very, very quick splash screen animations. You can create animations for buttons, and you can also create these so-called state machine animations that remember the previous state. So if it was, if it was on, it's gonna go to off. If it was off, it's gonna go to on, etc., etc., triggered by this specific switch here. So if you guys want to see this kind of video having to do with animations, definitely leave a comment below, like this video, and subscribe to this channel. And perhaps if there's enough interest, I may make a more complex video, and we're gonna go deeper into that. But right now, I just wanted to kind of get you guys excited about using such a tool, creating some simple animations, maybe modifying the animations that are already in the community. I do not recommend, going out and copying these animations, but you can just click on one and you can say open in Rive, and you can change the color, maybe you can modify it, you can do a lot of interesting things, and you can build on top of something that's available already and customize it for your specific app, for your specific use case. And so hopefully by learning about the specific animation tool, you can see the possibilities. You can see that you can now create animations without writing a single line of code, because that's what the channel is all about. And remember, I will have the animation that I created as well as the sample app on my Patreon page. And so if you're interested in that and you want to support the channel, you want to support the kind of work that I do, then you definitely want to subscribe to the Patreon page. We're going to have a lot of fun things there. We're going to have Q&As, lots of interesting tutorials, special tutorials that are only going to be available there. And pretty much all the apps that I'm building, I'm making them available there. So if you want to show your thanks, show your appreciation, check out the page in the description. Definitely join the community. And so that is all that I wanted to share with you guys today. Really, really hope you've gotten value here. I know when I discovered this, I was very, very excited, and I couldn't, wait to kind of play around with it. And I started to play around with it and making a bunch of cool animations. And hopefully you're going to have the same feel, the same type of excitement, and you'd want to go inside and start building your own animations and putting them inside your apps. And so if you enjoyed this video, I would highly appreciate a thumbs up. Leave a comment below letting me know what you thought, what kind of videos you want to see next, your opinions, your questions, comments, etc. And also, last but not least, you definitely do want to subscribe to this channel so that you do not miss out on any future videos. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you in the next video.